There's a chapter of personal growth that nobody warns you about. It's not because it's rare, but it's uncomfortable to talk about. Like, really, really kind of uncomfortable to talk about. It's the chapter where you've outgrown your old way of life, but you haven't quite built that new one you're aiming for yet. You don't quite fit where you were, but you don't belong where you're going just yet. And that space between feels, well, awkward, lonely, quite honestly, a little miserable. And here's the part nobody puts on Instagram. This is the chapter where most people actually quit. If growth feels heavier than it should right now, this episode's for you. Let me give you a win right out the gate, just in case you are thinking about leaving. Loneliness during growth is not a sign that you're failing, it's a sign that you've already changed. Now, if that's all you wanted, you can take it or leave it, but I promise there's a lot more. Because if the old jokes don't land anymore, if the old habits don't quite hit the same, if the conversation feels like you're speaking a different language, it's not because you're becoming arrogant. That's you becoming incompatible with who you used to be. You didn't lose your way. You just kind of outgrew the container you were in. I want to anchor this before we go any further because everything else is going to hang on this. Growth always creates a gap, and that gap always, always feels lonely. The problem isn't the gap. The problem is no one told you it was part of the deal. And so you have a habit of kind of backing off when you get there. Now, guys, stay with me. We're going to unpack this. We're going to break it down how you get through the gap and keep going, even when it feels lonely and difficult, because you are well on your way at that point right after this word from our sponsor. Gentlemen, one of the most important things you can do for your relationships, whether that's with your spouse or with your kids or your personal development, is to get a good night's sleep. Sleep is the underrated power move that most people are neglecting, especially in our American culture. We all try and get as little sleep as possible, and I'm telling you, it is setting you back. That's why we partner with Mike Lindell and MyPillow as sponsors of the show. MyPillow makes incredible products that help you get a good night's sleep and helps you in all kinds of areas of your house. My wife and I have MyPillow products throughout our house, from our bath towels to the products we sleep on every night to help us get good rest. And I need that when I'm running 4 shows and doing other shows on top of that. And I promise you need good sleep too. So go to mypillow.com and use promo code THRIVE for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75 for our audience. MyPillow is an American company that is owned by its employees, and every dollar you spend there not only helps real Americans, but it also helps keep our show on the air. Go to MyPillow right now, get better sleep, and it will improve every factor of your life. Now, let's get back to the show. The Driven to Thrive broadcast, purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. Helping men go from living to thriving, purpose-filled, intentional lives. Welcome to the Driven to Thrive broadcast, where men learn to lead themselves, their families, and their world with purpose, growth, and lasting impact. I'm your host, Brent Dallin, and this show exists to help men gain clarity, ownership, and purpose, not through motivation, but through honest conversations about what it actually takes to build a meaningful life. Now, I missed you guys last week, but I took a week off for Christmas. I wasn't originally planning to, but I thought, you know what? I haven't taken a week off in a long time, and I'm going to spend the week with my family, and I hope you guys got to spend your Christmas week with loved ones as well. Thanks for that, Grace. This is the season 6 finale. And today we're talking about a chapter most men enter quietly and almost nobody stays in long enough to truly understand. The lonely chapter. Now, a lot of us have heard that frequently you're only 1 or 2 steps off real progress, right? It feels like you're not going anywhere, and it's only a step or two away. You just got to get to that next step. Well, as we dive in today, know if your growth feels quiet, misunderstood, unsupported right now. I bet a lot of you have been there. I know I have. The truth is, you're probably doing real work. Real change rarely feels powerful. It actually usually feels very inconvenient. The work that changes your life rarely announces itself. But let's zoom out for a second. Look, see, every major life change, quitting drinking, changing careers, deepening your faith, getting serious about your health, has a phase where that old identity dies. And it happens before the new one is actually stable enough to stand on its own. This is a really uncomfortable place. Psychologists called this identity as limbo. Faith calls it the wilderness. The Stoics called it the proving grounds. Different language, same reality. The fact is, it gets really, really lonely really easily because you may have outgrown some of the people you spend time with. You don't spend your evenings with the friends the way you used to playing Xbox. Instead, you go to the gym. So that's what you want to talk about while they're still playing Xbox. Not necessarily bad friends, you are in different places. That's just reality. And that gets really, really difficult to manage because you get to feel where you're just out on a limb on your own. And the people who liked you the way they were, they're trying to pull you back. They don't want to see you change, but you haven't actually connected with the new crowd that's going to support you in this new journey yet. Now, let's zoom back in. Okay. Growth feels lonely because your brain is a prediction machine. What it really likes at a neurological level is familiar routines, predictable rewards, social validation. When you change your patterns, your environment, or your identity, your brain loses that reliable feedback. There's no dopamine hits, no good job, no certainty. Your brain loves homeostasis, guys. It likes to keep you where you are because change is scary. And your brain's job is to keep you alive. And the brain starts whispering, are we sure this is working? Well, here's the trap most men fall into. They mistake discomfort for danger. But often it's just novelty without the validation yet. Growth feels lonely because not because it's wrong, but because your nervous system hasn't caught up yet. It takes it longer to rewire than the idea that you're chasing. Let me give you something practical here, okay? Because insight without application just turns the noise, and we're all about application here and actually giving you real tools. Normalize something before you optimize it. For the next 7 days, I want you to stop asking, is this working? And start asking, is this expected? Here's what that looks like, okay? When something feels awkward, don't fix it, label it. When doubt shows up, don't argue with it, don't justify, just notice it. When loneliness creeps in, don't escape it. I know that's really hard, but name it. Literally say, this is my nervous system adjusting. I'm not a sign I'm failing, just adjusting. Awareness calms your brain faster than reassurance. This keeps you from self sabotaging something that just hasn't stabilized or taken yet. All right, zoom back out with me again, real quick, guys. If certainty was required before action, almost nobody would ever change their life. Let that sink in for a minute. Certainty being required before action, nothing ever changes. That's just how that would work. Growth always begins without proof. That's why it's hard. Now let's come back in. There's something the Bible calls this time period, and that's the wilderness. And guys, I've had literally years of my life where I felt like I was in the wilderness, like I was just drifting, like I didn't know where I was going, completely just aimless and wondering, is like, okay, what's going on? What am I supposed to be doing? Am I just like it? It was hard. It was really, really difficult for me during that time period. Faith traditions have always understood this better than modern self help. Scripture doesn't skip the lonely chapters. Moses didn't go straight from calling to clarity. David didn't go from anointing to the throne. Jesus didn't skip the wilderness, not because they were failing, but because they were being prepared. The wilderness is one of the hardest places to be. It can feel endless, it can make you feel stuck, it can make you doubt yourself. I know all about that one. It can make you doubt the plan. The wilderness strips away false confidences so real trust can grow. The lonely chapter isn't where faith disappears, gentlemen. It's where faith becomes necessary. If it was easy, everybody would have it down. If the refining process was painless, no one would fight it. So let's make another shift, will we? Let's shift from asking when to asking who, right? This faith application isn't about doing more. It's about trusting differently. Instead of praying, when does this get easier? Try praying, who am I becoming while this is hard? Then try this once a day. Write down one way this season is strengthening you. Maybe you're growing your patience or your discernment. Maybe you're becoming more humble. Maybe you're becoming more dependent on God, or maybe you're growing in your self control. The wilderness doesn't give answers, it gives formation. This reframes waiting as an active preparation instead of a passive suffering, which is a lot harder to deal with. Now, faith doesn't promise clarity on the timeline, it promises meaning in the process. Let's be really clear. A lot of people get lost in what's promised through faith in the Bible. But you know what's not promised? Things being easy, things happening fast on my time, things being really clear, massive success as defined by society, all the answers. None of it's promised in the Bible. None of that's guaranteed. So understand when you're going through the wilderness, there's a lot in the Bible that's going to carry you through if you trust in God, if you're strong in your faith. But it isn't going to be super simple or the way you think it should go. Now, let's dive into one of the big issues you're going to face, and that's resisting the urge to regress. The Stoics understood something brutal and honest. The world pulls you towards average. Let me say that again. The world, society, your friends around you will pull you towards average, especially if you have the wrong friends. It will pull you towards comfort. It will pull you towards familiarity. Your brain really wants that. And it will pull you towards what requires the least struggle and offers the least resistance. Marcus Aurelius warned that most people don't abandon the harder path because it's wrong. They abandon it because it's lonely. Growth, that costs energy. Discipline, that costs comfort. Being different, that costs approval, which our society is really big into these days. When that cost isn't repaid immediately, going back is tempting. It feels familiar, it's warm, it's comfy. My daughter just got a new blanket for Christmas. She already has lots of blankets on her bed, but she wanted one that she could cuddle up with. She always steals my wife's blanket that she keeps on the couch. So she got this new blanket for Christmas, and she already is in love with the blanket from the get-go. She just loves it, right? Why? It's warm, it's comfy, it's soft. She curls up in it, and she doesn't want to go anywhere. That is what your brain wants. That is what you want to go back to when things get difficult. that comfort. Regression always feels like relief in the short term. The Stoic answer wasn't motivation, guys. It was endurance. Do the work. Do the work without applause. Do the work without the certainty. Do the work without needing to explain yourself. It's really, really counterculture to what people are trying to say today. Stoicism isn't about being tough, it's about being deliberate. It's about being intentional. So try this to help you this week with the no regression rule. Pick one behavior you're just not allowed to go back to, period. Dot in, no matter what, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how difficult growth feels, no matter what the whiny situation that is nagging at you, you're like, oh, this is so hard. Guys, we're heading towards New Year's resolutions. Please don't be one of those people. If you want to change your life, change your life. Don't wait for the New Year's. Don't wait for a resolution. They all fail anyway. As a longtime avid gym goer, I get a kick out of it every year. But don't wait for that. One behavior you're not allowed to regress on, no matter what. Maybe it's drinking to fit in. Maybe it's late night scrolling on that cell phone when you feel lonely. Yeah, that's a real popular one these days. I know that's one I struggle with. Maybe it's complaining to people who don't support your direction. Maybe this one's hard to get away from. It's seeking validation from old circles. Maybe it's something totally different. Write it down. Even when this feels lonely, I don't go back to filling your blank. Pick your thing, guys. Whatever it is, draw a line in the sand, plant your flag. Discipline isn't doing what's hard. It's refusing what's easy and destructive. This creates a floor. It's not a ceiling. You don't have to win. You just don't retreat. If you don't retreat long enough, that floor keeps rising. And that's something we've talked about on the podcast before. Raising your floor, not your ceiling. Now, real quick, this is exactly the kind of conversation we go deeper in on our Patreon podcast, Behind Closed Mics. That's the Patreon side of this work, where we talk honestly about the stuff men usually don't say out loud, the doubts, the second guessing, the lonely middle ground. If you want to check out those unfiltered conversations, that's where they live. Patreon.com/thefallibleman. Check out what we've got going on over there. If you're the kind of person who likes that behind the scenes and the totally unfiltered things I can't say on the air or just don't talk about on this show, that's where you want to check us out. Now let's wind back into this conversation. The reason we have those conversations behind closed doors is because this chapter, it's deeply personal. It's internal. It's quiet. It's the stuff you wrestle with when nobody's watching and you don't really want somebody knowing about. But zoom back out for a second. One of the most dangerous things about the lonely chapter is that it feels unique. Like you're the only one walking through it. But that's not true. It's simply not the truth. This chapter shows up in every meaningful story we admire. We just don't talk about that part most of the time. So let's ground this into some reality, right? Let's put some real names on it. And let's talk about the chapter nobody posts about. Think Dwayne Johnson, right? Now, I do appreciate that Dwayne Johnson has shared his story numerous times. That's why his company is called $7 Production. We see The Rock in all his glory, although not as much these days due to some health scares or whatever's going on with him. But he'll talk about it if you ask him, but we don't really focus on the years he was broke, depressed, cut from the CFL, rebuilding from scratch. The story of $7 Productions is great if you haven't heard that, guys. So you should check that out. Or maybe Matthew McConaughey, right? Dude is got everything. Like he is the ladies' man. I grew up in the right age group where He was the rom-com sweetheart. Every woman was in love with him. Well, guys, he walked away from rom-com fame at the height of it. And he disappeared for almost 2 years. No guarantees, no applause, just conviction. What about Michael Jordan? Any of us in Gen X or older probably know the story, but he was cut from varsity. Varsity, let's see if I can say that right today. He was working alone. There were no cameras. Shooting shot after shot after shot, practicing in a driveway, practicing in parks, driving himself forward. No one likes to talk about the building phase. No one likes to talk about the lonely chapter. The lonely chapter doesn't trend on social media. It doesn't sell. It doesn't look impressive because that's what we want. Impressive, right? But it's always there. Now, here's where comparison usually kills the momentum. So let's use it correctly as we talk about application here. Pick one person that you admire, not to imitate their success, but to respect their timeline. Then ask this: what did they walk away from? What did they endure quietly? How long were they invisible? I'm asking you to do a good old fashioned research paper. My children are in school, and so they're familiar with research papers and utterly hate them. But I want you to study the gap, not the highlight. And say this out loud: if I wanted their outcome, I must respect their unseen years. You can't skip the chapter that made the person you admire possible. This turns envy into patience, and patience into endurance. If you're in the lonely chapter right now, hear this clearly. Don't rush it. For God's sake, don't numb it. Don't abandon it. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're becoming. Loneliness isn't proof you're off track. It's often proof that you're early. The chapter doesn't need to be conquered. It needs to be respected. Let me land this with something simple as we head towards New Year's and the end of 2025, guys. Maybe 2025 hasn't gone the way you thought it would. Maybe you haven't checked off all those goals you set at the beginning of 2025. Maybe you got way off track. Or maybe you've been in this lonely chapter wandering through the wilderness for a long time in 2025. I can tell you personally, I had about 4 years where I was just wandering in the wilderness, guys. I was going to work, I was doing the family thing, but I felt drifting and aimless and without purpose and completely lost. It was rebuilding. I didn't know it at the time. Took some years out of the wilderness and some hindsight to recognize it because it is hard. So maybe 2025 hasn't been great. Maybe you're really looking forward to 2026. But understand this: if you are in the lonely chapter right now, your job isn't to win. Your job is to stay consistent, to stay honest, stay sober minded, and stay in the work. Because momentum, if I can talk right, is built quietly long before it's visible. Let me say that again. And think back to the stories you heard of Michael Jordan shooting hundreds of free throws every time after practice. Momentum is built quietly long before it's visible. If this episode put words to something that you've been carrying around quietly, stay close. Season 7 is going to be all about navigating this terrain with clarity without losing yourself in the process and making real progress in your life. Guys, thanks for hanging out through season 6. I look forward to an amazing season 7, even more focused to serve you guys and to bring you more help, more support, more tricks, more tips, more ways to actually make real progress in your life, to live the life of purpose that you've always wanted to, and to thrive in everything you do. As always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today. And we'll see you in the new year. The Driven to Thrive broadcast, purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. Helping men go from living to thriving, purpose-filled, intentional lives.